Here we are in the bedroom at Ketchum House. And we're going to look at ways that we can make little changes in our lives that will have a big impact on our planet. We've never paid a cent of rent to our planet. We've paid mortgages to our banks, we paid rent to our landlords, but we've never given anything really back to the planet. And this is the time where we can do that. Paying your rent is doing things differently, and not the same that we've done for the last 50 or 60 years, but looking at things differently, making conscious choices. So what kind of choices can we make? Well, let's start in the bathroom. We all take a shower, all of us, mostly every day. First of all, is a shower needed every day? Probably not. When you reduce the amount of water you use, you're going to reduce the amount of energy you use based on heating that water and then treating that water afterwards. So you first want to look at, do I need to shower every day? There's many ways to keep smelling good. One is, I think it's called the European shower. You're just going to take a washcloth, hit the targeted areas where you may feel unfresh. That's one way. But when you do have a shower and you need to dry yourself, make a choice. That choice is the towel. What towel you will use. Do you need a full-size bath towel? Or would something the size of a hand towel suffice? A hand towel of this size can easily dry a man who's 6'2". The only towel that I use today, consciously, is a hand towel. Because, simply, you can still reach in behind and get all those areas dry that you've had when you use the full bath towel. What's the difference? I think it's about 3/4 more efficient to use the hand towel over the bath towel just based on size. There's 4 of these that make up every bath towel. So that's going to mean there's going to be less water used, less energy used to heat that water, and less need to treat that water after it's used. So the next time you have a shower, think about this little guy. You can hang it up, let it dry as well a couple times before you wash it. So think about that. What else can you think about? Think about your soap. Think about plastic. Regrettably, there is no more beach glass. If you're as old as I am, and I'm 54, I remember as a kid walking down the beach, finding a piece of glass, admiring that piece of glass, looking at it, because the waves and the sand had smoothed that piece of glass out into what it looked like an emerald because it was green. But there's no more beach glass. There's a lot of beach plastic, and that does not have the same shine as beach glass. As we all know, plastic is choking this planet. Single-use plastics of any nature can be avoided. How can they be avoided? By washing your hands. Don't get caught up with the hand pump. There is more plastic in this than you need to wash your hands. As we remember, we used to have bars of soap. Why not investigate or uncover the bar of soap again and use the bar of soap? If there's multiple people in your family and you don't want to share, have 4 bars of soap at the sink. But this disappears. This takes over 500 years to disappear. And when you think about this disappearing in our environment, and even after 500 years, it's where does it really go? That's the concern. So use your soap bar. Straws have been in the news, and I think there's been great impact on straws, and I'll do a future segment on a straw that's plant-based. But right now, there are still straws out there. What can you do in the interim until straws are developed in a way that they can decompose in the environment. Simple choices are metal straws. You can create a fun little food knapsack or little bag or survival kit where you could have straws. I have one where I put my chopsticks in, my wood chopsticks, instead of accepting a plastic fork. And also when you're dining out, remember to bring your own take-home containers for those leftovers instead of accepting the plastic handouts from your favorite restaurant. I mentioned single-use plastics. If I ever see this, it makes me cry almost to the point where somebody can pick their teeth for 5 or 10 minutes with one of these devices and then discard this. So anything that has a short-term use but a long-term stay behind or residence is not a good thing. I find even using a toothbrush without toothpaste and brushing between in different angles can pull out almost just as much as this without using dental floss or one of these single-use, whatever you want to call them. Not too happy about that. Shaving. I find that if we kind of overshot where we should have been as a society back in the 50s, love the 50s. Feels like we should have stayed in around that era because that's really where there's still lots of use of glass, lots of use of metals for everything in regards to packaging and how we receive goods. And when you think about the razors of the 50s, there were those big chunky metal ones that you drop on your foot and you would say, ow. So companies do also supply similar razors as you saw back in the 50s. And funny that you say, because this company, yes, as I remember, it's called Supply. So Supply supplies a razor that is 100% metal. Metal in today's day and age has no concerns for me whatsoever. It will naturally decompose and not hold the same burdens as all the plastic razors that we see. There is reusable metal blades for this. It's built well. It's a sexy device too. So this is a razor that you can choose. A little more expensive. Pay your rent. We call it paying your rent because sometimes you have to spend a little bit more money. You can buy a disposable kit of razors for, I don't know how much. I think this was over $100. There's a choice to be made though. Do you buy something that has a lower cost, probably not a superior product, and then it has a long-term impact on our planet? Or do you spend your money or pay your rent and buy something that is right, like one of these razors? So we also have to brush our teeth. We've been brushing our teeth for a century, I guess, or so. We used to use charcoal, I think, at one point in time. So where we went with brushing our teeth, we went to here. And I never really thought about this until I became more focused on what we can do as a society to help the direction of our current planet's plight. So this toothbrush, please stop. Please don't buy another dollar store one. Please reconsider next time. And reconsider something. Bamboo. Bamboo toothbrushes. Bamboo toothbrushes, like this one, basically do have a charcoal, bristles. I've used these for over a year, and there is an adjustment to get used to the wood in your mouth compared to plastic, but life is meant to adjust. We can't stay the same all the time. Once you've made that adjustment, this toothbrush is the best tool to brush your teeth. And after this toothbrush has served its time, you could literally plant it in your garden or burn it in your fireplace. And it will leave no long-term impact, no fingerprint on this planet whatsoever. So if there's one thing that I could ask you to do today, right now, is to go and buy a good amount, a nice lot of bamboo toothbrushes.